Hello, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the stream today. I'm sick, that's why I looked like this, so excuse the hoodie and ridiculous attire, but not feeling too good. But nonetheless, we're going to watch a showdown today. We've got Andrew Wilson versus Richard Spencer. I don't know anything about Richard Spencer. This is the first I'm hearing of his name, but they've made quite a whirlwind on Twitter. Apparently, they had quite an incendiary debate yesterday or a couple of days ago, and so we're going to watch this today and see what's going on, see who's in the right, who's in the wrong, if the debate was a productive one, and so on. So with no further ado, let's go.
Have Andrew Wilson and Richard Spencer debating the manosphere. We have two topics. The manosphere is number one. Richard Spencer will have his opening statement, which will be about 5 minutes, and then we'll give it to Andrew, and then we'll go back and forth, crossfire. I just want to say thank you. I love talking to you guys. It's phenomenal watching you. So pumped about this debate. Richard, whenever you're ready.
I don't know who this moderator is either. I've never seen him before.
Andrew, for being
familiar
here,
with
and
this channel.
Thank you, Josiah, for inviting me and setting this up. So I believe, or my affirmation is that the manosphere is a socialist movement for low status losers in order to get pussy. Is that what it is, more or less? You can read that.
Sure. Manosphere / men's rights movements
it's a
are
common
socialist,
misconception
egalitarian crusades made up of men that need to be eliminated from the gene pool.
Well, that's even harsher than I remembered, but wow. And then the next one is that so-called traditionalists want to return to an era that never existed. They actually don't want to return to the past. They want to return to a magical utopia, basically.
Yep.
Okay. I think I can handle all of these, and I'll try to keep it at 5. But if I go into 10, maybe you'll give me that time, and I'll certainly give that time to Andrew if he needs that long to respond as well. I think it's best just.
Well, I think we have the structure down. It's like 5-5, and then what is it?
Yeah, but
sometimes
I
4-minute rebuttals. I think
these two things.
Yes,
so let's
just
have
find
a
them
discussion.
to be necessary to my understanding.
And I just
here. Like to skip to the back and forth.
I'd like to keep it to the format. Otherwise,
today actually,
I'm the reason why this debate is happening. So I'm going to.
Then you can fuck off. I don't care. Fuck off.
Are you in charge, Andrew?
Yeah.
Are you in charge, buddy?
I am.
No,
Richard,
you're not. Josiah's in charge.
Richard,
we agreed to a platform, and if you don't want to do it, then don't do it.
No, I'm going to speak for 10 minutes. I'm
going to
somewhere
else for 10 minutes.
Listen, Andrew, fuck you, man. You are the.
Wow.
When I imagine like losers being attracted to the manosphere, it's you, buddy.
I know. You got me, Richard.
Yeah. I did get you. All right.
You got me.
Thanks for agreeing with me, Josiah. I'm going to speak for 5 to 10 minutes. I'm going to say
the rules say 5 minutes.
Things.
I disagree.
I'm going to allow Andrew.
Can we stick to the format?
We're not playing fucking tennis here. I'm going to give.
No, we're having a structured debate.
Goes.
Yeah, and we're having a structured debate, and we agreed to a format. And I'd like to stick to it
full time. Yeah.
I'm not going to back down on this.
Then go away.
I'm going to speak for. Why don't you go away, you little fucking?
Oh no, Richard. Wow. Let's keep it 5 minutes. No slurs, nothing. You can seriously sabotage both of our lives.
I'm sorry
by doing this.
I'm going to speak for a reasonable amount of time.
Oh no.
I will allow Andrew to respond, and I'm not going to be timing him or something like this. Okay?
Chaos ensues right from the get-go.
We don't need lawyers to get divorced. Think about Eve.
That's what's going to happen. Do you agree with that, Josiah?
If I continue to do this format video, by the way, I will eventually.
We have the 5 minutes. I think that structure makes sense.
Hey, I actually can't anyway. He already broke the TOS. I already got to reboot the stream. So, yeah, like that's the end of that. Appreciate the time, guys.
Damn it.
Yeah, he's running away. He did. They did the exact
Wow, that's
same
crazy.
thing.
I've
No,
never
Richard,
seen
we
that at the
literally
beginning of a
started
video,
this. We started
beginning of a
this, and the
debate.
first thing I said was literally
An official debate as
no
well.
slurs.
Fairly official.
Oh, I'm
As official as
sorry,
we can suppose
Josiah.
to be.
Let's just do it again. But like that guy is so fucking annoying. I can't even put it into words.
Dude, no.
How are you
Oh
gonna
my
get triggered
gosh,
that
bro.
easily?
This has been 2 weeks of planning, Richard. 2 weeks.
Well, then why don't we have a conversation? I'll do it live. You don't need Andrew. He sucks.
No. Okay, my audience
This guy is
loves Andrew.
salty. The thing that I've noticed about Andrew's opposition is because they're all very angry that he's acquired the success that he has over the past couple of years. They can't stand it. They're seething, many of them, because they haven't got a fraction of the notoriety and they can't stand it.
Andrew does a phenomenal job.
I bet when he got on Joe Rogan, his opponents were just, they couldn't sleep that night. They could not sleep, guaranteed. What's happened to the volume?
RFH. They don't want to debate. He just said, I'm going to speak in a reasonable amount of time and I will allow him to have his time as well. This is the most reasonable thing on earth.
Yeah, no, okay. I understand, but dude, the
Let's go with, like,
structure
Ned
was
Flanders.
5 minutes, right? I know you said 10 to 15. I said this is the structure I'm thinking. You agreed to that. And then Andrew, I sent that over
I don't
to
care.
him.
We're not playing tennis, Josiah. I'm going to speak. I want to finish my statements.
No,
It's not how it
I
goes.
understand that. I get
Make
it,
them
but
more
at the same time, it's just
succinct
this is
then,
like, you know, when
concise.
you say
this
something,
is his
you
trick.
have to stay
He
by
doesn't
that.
want to be blown out of the water. So they do this like
I'm guessing they have 5 minutes. You can't sum up your overall like argument in 5 minutes.
technicality.
diffuse.
Do you honestly think I fear debating Andrew Wilson like in the slightest bit? Do you honestly think that?
I think you were extremely bad faith when the guy.
How?
Because, dude, the first thing I said was, YouTube terms of service.
I'm sorry I called him a
This is a channel, okay? I spent a ton of money on this channel, okay?
okay.
And this is
let's start over. I will begin talking. If Andrew wants to re-enter, then he can do that. I'll give you my time since I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous.
So when does
Yeah,
that reappear? Let's
I
maybe we'll skip
appreciate
to
that. It's just, this is how YouTube works, and you can say it's being touched,
Josiah,
whatever.
I'm
but, like,
correct. You've got like I'm not doing this. All right.
Wait, was that
What do
it?
I
you-
have
You're
been
correct.
extremely reasonable, and like the Andrew Wilson runs away like the little weakling that he is. And I don't know what to say.
Right.
I will give a opening statement to your YouTube audience if you would like, and we could have a discussion for an hour. But like, this is not like, this guy is just, he's a POS. Look at him.
I like Andrew. He's
I
been
thought-
extremely
I thought
charitable
they had
to
a
me
debate.
and my
Oh, that's
family.
such a-
He's
and-
not actually a good
Proxies.
person. He's a fucking like dork and doofus, period. Okay. So let's not
Oh.
pretend like he's some cool guy.
Okay, where does all this tension come from? Is this come from the RFH beef and with Rachel Wilson or something? You have like,
I have contempt for both of them just on a personal level, to be
Oh,
brutally
dude.
frank.
I wish I knew this,
But-
man. It totally seems
I will
like
talk to them. I don't have an
sabotaged this.
axe to grind with either of them. All right. I just despise them.
Ah, man, I knew it was going to be an interesting debate because
This
you
guy's
guys
tough.
disagree on
Sounds like a tough.
axiomatic principles. So I wasn't figuring we would get to a middle ground here, but damn, dude, damn,
Seems like a bit of an arsehole, to be honest.
that's brutal.
Josiah, you've got to be a moderator and not just take like Andrew's side. I mean, just like
No.
I
That
just
was,
said, I'm
this
going to
is-
conflate
dude,
both things into a 5 to 10 minutes.
Dude.
Then he's going to speak. We're not playing tennis. You don't need to like serve whatever. And I said I'll give him all the time he needs. What is wrong with that?
Yeah. It really is. it really just comes down to simply the agreements that we
That's
made, right?
disappointing.
If
Okay, I'm out, Josiah. Josiah, you have got to be. I'm going to teach you something. All right,
yeah,
you have to learn to be reasonable with people. It's agreement. What I said, I suggested something 10 to 15 minutes. You came back, and I'm like, okay, let's go. All right, it's not
Mhm.
like we signed a contract in blood. I am asking for 5 to 10 minutes so that I can get my thesis out there. And then I will give him
Should we go to the
whatever
next
time he needs to
on my
respond
list
within
then?
reason,
Mhm.
right? This is how reasonable people work. Okay?
yeah, okay. So
Right? We're not playing fucking tennis for the third time.
yeah,
This is a debate and there's an ebb and flow.
I'm gonna attempt to once again do a little bit more of a moderate. Don't get upset with me, Richard. But when we have the rules, the 5 minutes, and Andrew,
Okay. Josiah,
hold on. Just,
I'm out. I don't want to hear,
I thought
I'm
you
not
said
going to
you'll
be
give me an
lectured.
hour. This
I'll
isn't
give
a
you an
lecture.
hour. I don't want to hear one more thing about how I'm not playing by the rules. I have been the most reasonable person.
Let me just check on YouTube to see if there actually is. There's nothing. I was so up for watching this debate. I haven't seen a full,
Okay.
good quality debate with Andrew for ages.
All right. You want to give your 10-minute rant on the red pill here?
It's not a rant, but yes. You can jump in anytime you'd like, Josiah. So
Dude, I
the
Okay.
what?
Okay.
So-called manosphere emerged in the 2000s.
Apparently, there's another one. They
mostly
had another
online.
discussion on the Tim Pool show, I think. Let's see if we can find this. I'm up for seeing these two in discussion today.
I think that contracting the amount of minds which we can create down to the perfect 1 billion or 500 million. That's what the Georgia Guidestones say, right? Yeah. Get it down to 500 million.
Right.
Get the class down to 500 million. Keep it in perpetuity with nature. The exact same thing you are currently now
I love the
advocating.
Georgia Guidestones.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do.
Watch Andrew Wilson go
Okay.
nuclear on.
I'm not going to do a reaction of reaction here. Okay, let's watch one on my list. Let's do this. Let's go to the watch later. Let's go Destiny.
Real thing. The way that I look at it is I view it as more of a question of like, what are humans? And then morality is a thing that emerges predictably from human behavior. So let's assume that we had a subset of humans, 100 different civilizations, and let's say 99 of them had no morality. Let's say one of them had some type of morality. And when I say morality, what I mean is some set of behaviors that guides them towards some kind of cooperation. I think that 99 of those civilizations would fail because without cooperation, you have people eating each other, killing each other's children, stealing, murdering, whatever. It just doesn't work. It falls apart. Whereas for the people that are more cooperative, those civilizations survive and then they eventually thrive and they carry on. And I guess those people thousands of years into the future will be wondering, well, is our morality objective? Does it come from some, written code in the universe? Is there some objectively true statements we can make about morality? But the reality is the only people that would have survived that far would have been the ones that would have had some kind of like guiding behavior characteristics regardless. So insofar as that goes, I think that morality is like an intuitive thing that kind of necessarily emerges from humans, because without these types of preferential behaviors, you basically just turn into this society that just cannibalizes itself until it ceases to exist. Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that morality is objective, though. It means that groups that have a set of moral codes are able to, I guess, cooperate in ways that a group that doesn't have a moral code might be able to cooperate.
Basically. But I would say that, like, because humans have a very shared biology, like 98% of humans are going to agree on like 98% of moral things. And then we're going to be arguing a lot about kind of edge cases. So things like abortion or gay marriage or whatever are going to be kind of like edge cases, but all of us are going to roughly agree that you shouldn't steal things, you shouldn't kill people, stuff like that.
TK, the reason I wanted to have this conversation is last time we had Destiny on the Minimalist podcast, you two debated a bunch of really compelling topics. And there was a moment where we just touched on morality. And I asked you whether or not an objective morality exists. And the thing you said to me that has stuck with me for the last several years is you said, well, we over-moralize a lot of things. And I think we could talk about that, how our culture's become so self-righteous, we tend to moralize everything. But it seems to me that if there are 5 universal moral truths, then there is some sort of objective morality.
That's right. I mean, my position, you could argue, is moral minimalism, that there is at least one moral fact. And if one moral fact exists, then moral realism is true. Now, I'm not actually a moral minimalist. I believe there's more than one moral fact. But for the purpose of this discussion, if we're asking, is moral realism is true, that's all that would be needed to demonstrate the truth of it.
I don't think
just to kind of clarify my position, I would say that moral realism for me is a subset of realism in general. And we can always get more precise with our definitions, but when it comes to realism, I just advance a common sense notion of it. If I were to say, hey, Josh, there is a pickup truck parked right in front of this building, I take myself to be expressing more than a preference, more than a feeling, more than a view on what I wish were true. But I take myself to be making an actual claim about reality, a claim that can be falsified, a claim that can be verified. And if we go and we look and we see there is no pickup truck parked in front of the building, then that means either I lied or I got it wrong or something changed that I would have to give an account for. And so in everyday life, we speak as if some kind of realism is true. If I say there's a chair there across the room, again, I believe there really is a chair. I'm saying something about the world and not just me. In a similar way, I believe that moral realism is just realism applied to moral values. So to use a classic example, when I say that it is morally wrong to torture innocent babies for spectator sport, I'm not just saying I personally am disgusted with it. I'm not just saying human beings have evolved to feel yucky about that, nor am I just expressing how I want the world to be. Those things may be in place, they may not be in place. But what I'm saying is that kind of order, it is incongruent with reality itself. And in the same way that a person can behave irrationally by violating law morally by behavior.
At least been sympathetic to emotivism, which is, I think, completely different from TK's perspective here. Maybe you could talk a bit about that and relate to the way that he's describing moral realism.
When you, just because I hear everybody use these terms differently, I'm familiar with the term like non-cognitivism, where you're kind of expressing moral propositions and they're really just like preferences. When you say emotivism, can it just be clear what do you mean here?
Yeah, the boo hooray theory.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So,
by the way, can I this is completely off topic, but this is why I enjoyed our conversation with you when you were here on our show. And this is why I'm so excited about today. I'm in physical pain, so I don't look excited, but people make fun of anyone who says, what do you mean by that? And I think Jordan Peterson is kind of the classic example of it. But whenever I watch debates, I just get tired of them so quickly because people go on for hours without ever taking the time to just define what they mean. And people are so put off by the request. And I thought it was a normal, responsible thing to do. I think it's an essential thing to do. And so whenever I find myself in conversation with someone who isn't scandalized by that or who doesn't have any hesitancy to say, what do you mean by that? And that's okay. I'm like, all right, this is a good conversation. So I appreciate
that. But I hate the way Jordan Peterson does it. But maybe we can do that on our third visit.
Yeah, that'll be a different debate.
So when we speak about things, I think that there is a context to things that we say. And I think that there is, I think that when we say a thing is a thing, I think sometimes we're expressing different things, sometimes without realizing it. So like a lot of language, I would say ordinary human language has a lot of built-in or baked-in assumptions to it. If I were to pop my head in and if I were to say, is anybody in here hungry? And maybe all of you guys say, yeah. And then I were to leave, I think everybody would be kind of confused if 20, 30 minutes later, I'm eating in the other room alone. And you would come through and you would ask me a question. It's okay, well, I thought you were going to get us food. It's like, I never said that. And it's like, wow, when you ask somebody, like, are they hungry? There's a whole bunch of baked in stuff there in terms of, would you like me to get you food? I can get you, right? There's just so many different things. I don't remember the name, but I've heard this expressed as like the 4 maxims of like conversation or whatever. Like, oh, you know, if I were to text you this morning, I say, hey, I'm outside, and you go outside and I'm not there. And I was like, oh, I'm outside my house in Miami. I'm like, okay, well, that you're not conveying like the appropriate level of information. When you said outside, I assume you meant right outside my building right now at this point in time, right? But we don't say all these things. I think when we talk about different types of facts, I think that there are words that we use. So words like is, these types of verbs that we use, but I think we're kind of saying different things. So one thing that you brought up, and I'll simplify the truck example to like, there is a chair in the room. So when we say like there is a chair, like we're agreeing that there's some collection of matter that we've applied the principle of chair to it, and we, you know, say it's here, and we would say that's kind of a fact because it reduces to something, hopefully in an objectively true reality that our sense of perceiving, et cetera, et cetera. But here's a question I guess I would have. If I were to say, there is a chair in this room, is that the same type of statement as saying there?
This is the same conversation that Jordan Peterson was having on that podcast about God. Well, Jordan Peterson got ridiculed for it endlessly. They're having the same conversation. These guys are just taking more words to do so. Jordan was just saying it in a more, I would say, even a more layman's sort of vernacular. Like, this is a more academized way of saying it, you know? Like a more intellectualized version of the same thing.
There is a bed underneath the stairs in the Dursleys' house in Harry Potter. That there's a bedroom underneath. I'm trying to think of a specific fact in Harry Potter, but if I would say like there's a mirror in Harry Potter's room, is that the same type of statement as saying there is a chair in this room?
In one sense, yes. In one sense, no. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you were to ask me that as part of a normal conversation, I would take you to mean something like, hey, within the world that is the Harry Potter story, is this something that is deemed to be a fact? And so in that sense, yes, but it's a different kind of statement because you're making a statement about 2 different worlds. One is a world that we both agree on is purely conceptual, and the other is a world that we both agree is actually like physical in nature.
Okay. I think that was a perfect answer. So I'm not sure if we're going to disagree on anything or if it's just going to come down to terms. But when I view morality, I look at it similarly as like math. So if I say like 1 + 1 is 2, we all agree on that given the same set of mathematical axioms, depending on what set theory or whatever you use. We all agree on that, generally speaking, that 2 + 2 is 4, 3 + 3 is 6. These are things that we're going to agree on. But is 3 + 3 is 6? Is that the same type of truth as I spot, I think, is that a whiteboard or a table or something in the corner? And then the answer that you gave, well, with respect to some system, I would agree that this is true, but does it exist outside of the agreements of that system? This is kind of where I view morality as sitting. Morality is kind of like a statement in math or a statement in Harry Potter that so long as we all kind of agree on a set of norms governing that, we can make true statements with respect to those norms, but those norms are grounded in a relatively, I don't want to say arbitrary because that's not quite true, because I think biologically all of us are going to have similar norms, similar like core guiding principles. But I don't know if it's true in the same way that like a table exists or a wall exists. And then kind of the testing question that I would have on that, if you can speak to what I just said, the testing question is, if I were to say there's a truck outside and we were to go outside and we were to look, we could use our senses to kind of figure out, well, is there a truck or is there not a truck? And where there's going to be a right or wrong on that. Whereas if I were to say killing that person is wrong, and then we were to observe somebody killing a person, let's say there's a disagreement there. How do you resolve the disagreement between 2 people? What do you point to, or what are you looking at objectively to say, well, this person is correct, that is wrong, or that person is incorrect? It isn't wrong.
Yeah, it's a good question. Let me first respond to the example of the Harry Potter, the math facts, physical facts. So I think the Harry Potter example, that is a universe, so to speak, that we both agree is fictional. And we have concrete evidence that a human being created this universe, right? We can point to the person who created that and they can say, yes, here's the date on the calendar where no one talked about Harry Potter. Here's the date where they did talk about it. And it was because I introduced the idea to the world. I think mathematical truths are different from that. And I don't think one needs to be a Platonist on abstract entities in this way. But when we say things like 2 + 2 = 4, yes, we're assuming a base, we're assuming a formal system of logic, but we're also making claims about the nature of reality in the sense of there being order, there being structure, there being things like coherence and consistency. And I'm a realist on those things. So I think speaking of things like order and structure is very different than speaking of a bed being in a particular room in the Harry Potter story. One of those is fiction, and so I'm an anti-realist on that, and the other is one that I take to be true, and I'm a realist on that. Your question about the pickup truck versus the moral example, like, is killing wrong? Is there a pickup truck outside?
Mm-hmm.
I think this feels compelling and complex on the surface for one reason, namely that we are not in the habit of subjecting our beliefs about the physical world to scrutiny in the way that we are inclined to do with more abstract things. And so sometimes when you're dealing with something that's familiar, even if your reasons for believing it are bad, you feel more safe and you feel more comfortable because there's no need to ask questions about it, because there's nothing in my experience that forces me to ask questions about it. A good example of this would be money. You take fiat currency, has all sorts of problems. It is not a perfect system at all. But when you introduce a new form of currency like cryptocurrency, it incentivizes people to start thinking in a way that's really skeptical. And I think the skeptical questions are fair. Well, what is the money based on? Or like, how does this or that work? Those are fair questions, but those same fair questions could also be asked about fiat currency. It's just that we're not inclined to ask them because it's familiar. And so that gives us a false sense of security. So when we talk about the physical world, I do not take for granted that there is a mind-independent physical world. And I think it's a fair philosophical question to ask for any given experience you have of perceiving a physical thing. How do you know you're not hallucinating? How do you know that this is not merely the content of your consciousness? Now, we do not ask these questions at parties if we're trying to make friends, if we're trying to get along in the world. Most people would be annoyed by that. But when we're having philosophical discussions about the nature of justified belief, about having rational belief formation processes, it's a fair question to ask. One of the classical distinctions in philosophy, Bertrand Russell talks about this in Problems of Philosophy, as appearance versus reality. We all have direct experience with seeming to see something, seeming to hear something. We have these sensory impressions.
I actually got my first Bertrand Russell book the other day. I haven't started it yet because I've got a long list on my oh shit. Okay, that whole stack of books have just collapsed. But I've got the Prospects of Industrial Civilization on my reading list here. Bertrand Russell, a nice classic hardback copy. Pretty excited to start. But, yeah.
Right? And then upon further reflection or examination, we realize we were wrong. There is a stick that appears to be bent because it's in the water, but when I pull it out, I go, oh, it appeared to be bent, but it actually isn't, right? And so we all understand that difference between appearance and reality. So when you have an experience of seeing a tree, seeing a mountain, seeing a pickup truck, the question to ask there is, how do you know that what you see exists independently of the contents of your consciousness? I contend that once you establish the reasons for that, which is really the case for physical realism, you have in that the case for moral realism. I'm happy to make that case, but I want to pause here and just kind of hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I guess my question would be, how do you test any of the claims? So insofar as, we look at our five senses, for eyesight, if I want to say that thing is a particular color, and then we, have a group of people and there might be some disagreement on the color the thing is, we could actually test the wavelength of light that's being emitted from the thing. Or for sound, we can actually test the vibrations in the air to determine, the sound coming from a particular thing. What kind of investigation could we do to explore or communicate, I guess, a moral fact?
Yeah. So two things. So one, I want to make sure we don't oversell the ease with which we can test these physical claims.
Okay.
We have to significantly limit our data set to things that we pretty universally agree on. But when you look at many of the explanations we take for granted now about why we experience the physical world in the way we do, humanity has been flat out wrong about the theories of the experience for the overwhelming majority of history. So for instance, You take Once Upon a Time, disease was explained in terms of rotten matter and the way that pollutes the air and we get sick, or because of defects in people's moral character, or the idea of heat transfer being, explained in terms of pressure inherent in substances. And I believe it was, caloric pressure, something along those lines. And so if we were to go back and look at some of Aristotle's physics, and he's probably brighter than all of us combined, and we compare that to our understanding of physics today, if we just take Newtonian physics and compare that to...
How does that apply to the way in which we gauge moral fact? Just because our ability to test objective physical realities is limited, but also obviously growing ever more successful over the year. Like, we still... Like, a bad tool is better than no tool. I don't really see his argument there. It's just like we can't perfectly calibrate our tools to read the physical world around us, and so why should we need one for the moral one? It's not really an argument. It kind of proves his point. We have zero tools to measure moral, the fact of moral, the existence of morality.
Aristotle physics, then
silly.
We have some major differences. So even today, when you push really hard to get into the substance of reality, there's a ton of difficulty in terms of understanding what the nature of physical reality is. And I'm not sure how we get out of it. So for instance, you take the debate in scientific realism. There's entity realism, there's structural realism. And when we push on the nature of matter, it's what are we interacting with? Are we actually interacting with entities? Are we interacting with some kind of energy pattern? Are we interacting with structure? What are we interacting with? These are very difficult questions to answer, and we cannot settle them with instruments. We cannot settle them with observations, or they would already be settled. We actually have to settle them with deep, difficult conceptual analysis, in the same way that we would argue about the existence of God. We're not going to settle this by like saying no God or God. We have to have philosophical discussions about what evidence look like, what rules of inference we abide by. And we may not come to an agreement, but we wouldn't deal with that disagreement by saying there is no truth. We would just say, this is really hard and it's a different kind of thinking. So that's the first part of that. The second part is, how do we go about settling moral disputes? Well, one thing that we can do, and this is a longer game, but one thing that we can do is we can talk about moral structures as a kind of order that's inherent in the fabric of reality itself. And so earlier I mentioned that being immoral is to behavior, what being irrational is to belief. When you form beliefs irrationally, it produces disorder in your life. It puts you out of alignment with reality. In a similar way, immoral behavior...
That's like a Petersonian argument. It's quite a nice way of framing it. It's the type of argument that Jordan Peterson would put forth. Like the way he proves that there's some sort of a moral landscape that is real. It's just that you can't transgress against it because it will have real impacts. It's kind of the same way he says that he's never seen anyone get away with anything, morally speaking, because you can't manipulate existence and have it not infringe upon you in the future. That's kind of what he's saying right now.
Behavior produces disorder in one's life. And so we can take a look at what are the actual consequences in individuals and in civilizations. We can look...
It's kind of a good retort to atheists as well, when they say that, like, why should we have a moral order? Why should I believe in heaven and hell? Because I can do whatever I want, and I can, there's no... But this kind of argument is good. It's a good retort to the atheist line of thinking. It's like, if you don't believe in the metaphysical heaven and hell, you might as well follow the precepts of religion, because those types of repercussions will manifest themselves in your living life anyway. So it doesn't even matter if heaven and hell exist, because you're going to reap the repercussions nonetheless.
Get that historically. What are the consequences of this way of behaving? And I think one point of agreement that we have, based on what you just said about the evolutionary explanations, is that the things that we consider to be moral are things that tend to produce societal stability. They tend to produce human flourishing. they tend to optimize us for survival. And so we can appeal to those kinds of things and we can test those kinds of things. But we have to be honest about the fact that those kinds of tests are a little more difficult, nuanced, and complex than like testing mechanical objects, in the same way that psychological research is more difficult than mechanical research.
Okay, so for the first part about not fully understanding where a thing is or what a thing might be, like in math, there are different like sets of infinity, basically, right? From depending on the types of numbers you're talking about, right? We can say there's an infinite amount of numbers between 1 and 2. There's an infinite amount of positive integers, whatever. There's a million things you can say about different types of sets of infinity. Just because there's an infinite amount of numbers between 1 and 2 doesn't mean that we could say, well, also, 5 could be an answer or 0 could be an answer. So while I agree that it can be difficult sometimes to hone in exactly on what it is a phenomenon is being produced by, or what's going on, we're definitely like directionally moving in some way.
For sure.
Such that like the science fiction writer Isaac Asimov, I think, is a really cute short essay about flat Earth, basically. And the idea is when we conceive of flat Earth, we think it to be, a stupid idea. But technically, flat Earth is a dramatically improved upon idea from thinking the surface of the planet is just random ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
And the difference, because of the size of the planet, between flat Earth and a spherical Earth is quite small. It's like a fraction of a degree, basically. And then the difference between, a lot of people think the Earth is round. It's not technically round. It's like an oblate spheroid. But the difference between roundness and an oblate spheroid is another like fraction of a degree. So even if the first guess is wrong, directionally, it's pushing in a direction that's more correct. The same as, whatever, I don't know who thought of the 4 humors or whatever for medicine, but like these are all directionally moving into a better understanding of what, today we have for medicine, and then hopefully that's moving into a better direction, et cetera, et cetera.
Agreed on all that.
Yeah. I say all that to say that, even if I look in the past and I say this is like a primitive notion that, that somebody might have had, but, we're making some kind of, you could say moral progress, you could say epistemic progress, whatever. I don't know if I feel like that same progress has ever occurred, when it comes to morality. Like if we look 2,000 years ago, you get religion, you have before that your 10 Commandments, everything else. I know there were other religions before Christianity. But I don't know if there's ever been a point where it's like, okay, well, here's a settled moral question. We've kind of solved this, or we've made a lot of progress on these moral questions. Like we know that adultery or murder is actually wrong or isn't actually wrong. Like I feel like these are questions that are about as wrestled with as they always have been, with some gains made in certain areas that I wonder if it has more to do with morality or more to do with like the physical manifestation of like medicine or technology. So for an example of that, we talk about like equal rights for women, and we talk about women being able to join the workplace and have education and everything. I would like to think that a lot of this came as a result of people, I guess, evolving morally or viewing women as more equal. But a large part of this was probably also due to the fact that
I'm probably just going to go till 10 today. I'll probably finish this another time, maybe tomorrow or the next day. Probably tomorrow. No, I'm busy tomorrow, so the next day. But yeah,
that our economy grew so much that women being integrated into the workplace, especially when we're at war, is really advantageous. And also the invention of birth control has given people the ability to have recreational sex without having to be married, having to have a child, and then being kind of committed to that, for forever. So to bring that back, I guess, when we're talking about order, and we're talking about irrationality, and we're talking about the production of some kind of society based on your behavior. I guess my question is this starts to feel a little bit more like the Harry Potter thing, where we say, well, if somebody were to ask, can Harry Potter defeat Snape? The answer would never be, well, neither of those characters are real, so there's no answer, right? You would answer within that world. And I feel like much the same if we were to say, is recreational sex, is that like acceptable or is that immoral? We would say, well, that's going to be with respect to whatever outcome you're optimizing for. But I don't know if there's like an objectively correct outcome to optimize for. And then say you have 2 people that want to argue back and forth, well, which outcome should be optimized more? In one world, there might be more recreational sex. In the other world, there might be a few more, we'll say, children and stable families, but no world is like falling apart. How do you even come close to resolving any disagreement there? Like, what would you even look at to test the disagreements there? How would you analyze those disagreements? Yeah.
So a few things.
Okay, I think I'm going to stop there because it's been a long day. and I've got stuff to do. But thanks for joining me. I will catch you next time. And yeah, I'll catch you next time for another debate. We'll continue with the Destiny debate. Whoever was debating then, I'm not even sure. But that was interesting. I liked it. But alas, I must go. Good night.